The real reason why you wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep is probably different than you think. But after helping thousands of people improve their sleep, I've discovered the underlying causes of why this happens. By the end of this video, you're going to have an exact roadmap on how to handle this once and for all. So a little while back, I was working with this entrepreneur who ran a very successful web development agency. He had already worked with 2 different sleep coaches and had been struggling with his sleep for years. So my intention going into our program was to get him really dialed in on the basics to make sure we had our fundamentals covered. And then once we did that, we would go a little bit deeper to smoke out what the real issue was. So this primarily looked like going to bed and waking up at the same time, dialing in on the circadian rhythm, going for a morning walk, eating at the same time, getting off technology, having a wind down routine, and blocking blue light 90 minutes before bed. There was a few other things that we did, but I just wanted to get him started with these basics. It took him a while to get consistent with just mastering these basics. But once we got him there, he was still waking up in the middle of the night and having trouble going back to sleep, even after doing all these things. So I got him on a continuous glucose monitor, which is a blood sugar monitor that you attach to your arm that measures your blood sugar in real time, and it confirmed my hypothesis. And that was that his blood sugar was crashing in the middle of the night, and then to stabilize that blood sugar, his body would dump cortisol to regulate it. If you wake up between the hours of 3 and 5 consistently, it's often linked to something called blood sugar instability. Lots of people are dealing with these types of issues and have absolutely no idea. The problem is that the worse your blood sugar gets, the harder it becomes to fall asleep and stay asleep throughout the night. And the worse the quality of your sleep gets, the more dysregulated your blood sugar becomes. So it's sort of this vicious cycle where your blood sugar is on a roller coaster and therefore you can't sleep through the night. And because you can't sleep through the night, it becomes much harder to stabilize your blood glucose. And even me, a few months back, was having some issues with waking up in the middle of the night. And I assumed that it was this blood sugar instability problem, but it was actually something much deeper. But we're gonna get to that in just a little bit. So right now, let's talk about how we can optimize our blood sugar so that we can sleep consistently through the night. So one of the main pillars of circadian rhythm entrainment is movement. And so what I teach is when people are dialing in on their circadian rhythm is that you wanna go for that morning walk, which is gonna set your blood sugar for the rest of the day. Then you're gonna walk after lunch, 10 to 30 minutes. It's gonna help bring that blood sugar down gently. And then you're gonna do the same thing after dinner. I had this big realization when I personally was wearing a CGM, and I noticed how gently my blood sugar would come down after I would go for a walk, even if I had a huge glucose spike. The added benefit of going for these walks after your meals is it's also going to help with digestion and your energy throughout the day. The second idea came to me when I was recovering from COVID. So when I got sick with COVID, it completely destroyed my metabolic system and my blood sugar was completely out of whack. Because of the situation, I was literally forced to go on a low carb diet, and I stayed on a low carb diet for about 2 years. And the diet worked extremely well for me until it didn't, like all diets. So I had to start making some adjustments, not only in my nutrition, but also my lifestyle. And I knew if I was going to continue to get stronger and stronger in the gym, that I would need to increase my carbohydrate intake just from an energy perspective. I needed it in order to fuel the workouts and to actually increase my energy throughout the day. The only problem with this is I had become extremely sensitive to carbohydrates because when you remove something from your diet, your body stops producing the enzymes that break those things down. So I started to slowly ratchet up my carb intake, timing it around before and after my workouts. What I learned during this time is that when you strength train, it changes the way that your body metabolizes those carbohydrates. Therefore, you won't experience as much of a glucose spike or crash. And I also learned that the more muscle I gained, the better my body would be at metabolizing those carbohydrates and utilizing that sugar. So often these blood sugar issues stem from not moving enough or having enough muscle. So the answer really is just to get in the best shape possible, to move your body a lot, to pack on some muscle, and to become really fit. During my time researching this subject, I stumbled upon this one experiment where the scientists put on a continuous glucose monitor on this guy and made him intentionally late to his flight. And on his way to the airport, he was stressing out because he had to literally run through security to catch his plane. And when he checked his blood sugar when he got onto the plane, it was at near diabetic levels. And what this experiment demonstrated is that blood sugar has a direct correlation with stress. And ironically, and unfortunately, the more dysregulated your blood sugar is, the more prone you are to mood swings and mood dysregulation, anxiety, stress. So it is also this vicious cycle where the more stressed you are, the more your blood sugar is dysregulated. And the more your blood sugar is dysregulated, the more stressed you might feel. One of the best ways I found to modulate my stress is a breathing technique called the Buteyko method. I've talked about it in another video, which I'll link up somewhere up here, but it's a simple nose breath in through the nose and out through the nose, and it's a longer exhale than inhale. So you go in 4, out 6, and then you start to chop off little bits of the inhale. You do this for 15 to 20 minutes, shifts you right into parasympathetic, and it's a powerful technique that can teach your body how to be more relaxed throughout the day, and therefore impact your blood sugar and improve your metabolic health. I'll leave a link below in the description to the guided track that I use almost every single day. But here's the thing, stress is everywhere and it's not going anywhere. So how can we not only lower stress, but become more resilient? So my 2 favorite ways to do that right now is through sauna and heat exposure, and through VO2 max training on the assault bike. By doing these things that are inherently stressful, but in a controlled environment, I'm teaching my body how to combat stress, how to be more resilient to stress, and how to build a little bit of adaptation over time. And through this hormetic stressor, my body is becoming more and more resilient to stress, so that when something happens that would normally stress me out in the past, it no longer phases me. So this is the 4th idea that changed the game for me. I was on Instagram and I stumbled upon this page called Glucose Goddess. And in her content, she broke down this simple idea that if you eat your food in the correct order, you can radically reduce the glucose spike. And the order in which she says you should eat your food is vegetables, protein and fats, and then carbohydrates. And by eating your vegetables first, you can blunt the glucose response by up to 70%, which is insane. The way that this works is when you eat the vegetables, the fiber in the vegetables lines the intestines, which reduces the glucose spike. This makes a lot of sense because if you look at most nutrition labels, what you'll find is that there's a little line that says net carbs. And net carbs is carbohydrates minus fiber. So the fiber is really taking away the impact of the carbohydrates. And so she went on to explain that we've had this in many cultures really forever. You have, the starter salad or the antipasta, and somehow these cultures knew that having these veggie starters before their meal would make a difference. And that simple adjustment could be a game changer for you as well. This 5th idea is completely counterintuitive and goes against the grain of what most people say and educate and tell people they should do. So when I was wearing a CGM, I would take a hot shower before bed and I'd watch my glucose climb. And then predictably, I would wake up between 3 and 5. My blood sugar was trying to regulate itself. And I thought this was so fascinating. So I said, what if I did the opposite? I'm going to take a cold shower. And I did, and I would watch my blood sugar come down and I would sleep completely through the night. Now, here's a little asterisk or caveat that I want to add to this. I learned that taking a cold shower may not actually be necessary. I just need to take a cool shower or a almost neutral, lukewarm shower. As long as it's not hot, it's not going to impact my blood sugar in a negative way. But if it's neutral or it's cool, then it neutralizes my blood sugar and it helps with my sleep. So even though it goes against common recommendations, I religiously take cool showers before bed. And that's what I recommend to all my clients and customers in the Sleep Advantage. And what you'll notice if you decide to try this, your HRV is going to go down at first for about a week or 2, but within 2 weeks, it's going to start picking up. And that's just a little added bonus. So obviously, if you can't tell from this video already, there are a lot of things that can impact your blood sugar, including inflammation and gut health and hydration, just to name a few of them. But I feel like these are the lowest hanging fruit that almost anyone can use to tackle waking up in the middle of the night so they can start having better blood sugar, which will ultimately result in them being able to sleep through the night, but also having better energy and just better health in general. However, I was doing all the things myself a few months back and I started to wake up in the middle of the night. So being this sleep guy, I went after it, did all the things. I started meditating more. I made sure to train. I made sure my meal timing was perfect. I was moving a lot throughout the day. I was eating my vegetables first, then my protein, then my carbs. I even modulated my carb intake, and I would still wake up in the middle of the night. But I was so flustered and frustrated that I went and bought myself a blood sugar monitor, the accurate ones that you prick and test your blood, and I put it right next to my bed. So that night I fell asleep, and then boom, I woke up like clockwork, and then I turned over, grabbed the blood sugar monitor, pricked my finger, tested my blood sugar, and waited patiently for the number to tell me what was going on. It flashed back 90. It was perfect. It was exactly where it should be. And that left me puzzled because I thought I knew exactly what was going on. And it turns out that I was wrong in this instance. And so I really had to think and do some introspection of what could be leading to this symptom. And after doing some reflection and thinking on it, I realized that there was something much deeper, and I unpacked it. And what it had a lot to do with was this decision, this thing that was swimming around in my consciousness that I had yet to come to resolution with. So once I realized that, I I told a couple friends about it, and then I made the decision, and then I made a financial investment, and then that night, boom, I slept through the night. And this really opened up a whole new paradigm for me, because I believe that this thing that I was thinking about or was ruminating, my subconscious was working on it, was keeping me up. You see, there was this deeper emotional thing that wouldn't let me rest until I had made the decision. If you struggle with a similar thing, instead of going straight to the tactic, then I would invite you to consider what is the deeper emotional reason why this symptom might be showing up in your life. It's not always easy to confront these things, but in my experience, it's always the thing that really moves the needle. And it's doing this kind of work that actually gets us to the root of why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. And it can be hard to address these things because usually we're in a pattern of avoidance, of not wanting to look at this. We're not wanting to deal with it. And therefore we come up for all these other distractions and things to put our energy into to try to solve the problem without truly solving the problem. But if you can honestly step into the tension and be with it, that's where the real transformation takes place. And that's how you accelerate your growth faster than you ever thought possible. And the more you do it, the more you can handle it, and the more flow you will experience. If you found this video helpful, I know you're gonna love the sleep series. Go check it out right here, and I'll see you in that next video. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Be well.